Man, just when you thought it was an ordinary Thursday, it's not an ordinary Thursday because we have breaking news on this Thursday. The President of the United States finally issues that long-anticipated executive order, hoping to bring some structure and some more clarity to college athletics, and it proves Auburn was right again. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. And Zach, let's talk about this. Your initial impressions of the executive order earlier today aimed at again, bringing structure and clarity.
Yeah, and there were some rumblings and chatter of this, that an executive order could be coming from President Trump. And then, as you said, Thursday afternoon, it happened. Then you read it and you read the reaction to it.
Yeah.
And it's like just him saying the same thing that the House settlement said and what these new rules were going to be. It's the same stuff, third-party pay-to-play.
Yeah.
Okay, it gets rid of third-party pay-to-play, which is hinted at collectives. So once again, we're having the conversation like, is John Cohen correct? By the letter of the law, possibly.
Yep.
But you still have to prove what pay-to-play is, or you have to clearly define what market value is.
Yeah.
And so if you're a collective, which I mean, you see On to Victory do this, where you see players post graphics and, meet and greets and promote certain things that the collective asks them to do. Who's to say that the collective isn't getting fair market value for what they're paying for? So I don't know. I don't think it changes anything. That's my gut reaction, Brad.
Yeah. I can understand why you would think that. I mean, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to enforcement, and how likely is it that you can enforce pay for play stuff? Listen, pay for play was happening at some schools way before official NIL was allowed in 2021. It had been happening for 50 years, long before the first NIL deal on July 1st of 2021. So pay for play, again, you got people who like to operate in the shadows. They're going to continue to want to operate in the shadows. I think what it does is it reverses or overrides the news from earlier in the week that seemed to indicate that Auburn would need to pivot from its strategy based on, go ahead.
There's still two different conversations. Like anytime news happens, it's like, oh, Cohen's right. Oh, does this mean Cohen's wrong? Like everything from the Auburn point of view. That's a fine question to ask.
Yeah.
The big thing here, and where Auburn appeared to be off on, or they're correct, we'll see, is, I mean, Cohen made the statement, and we'll use his exact example again for the millionth time. He said, if we pay somebody $800,000 and $400 comes from rev share and $400 comes from third-party NIL, it hits the cap for $800,000. I still don't think that's true.
Correct.
I still don't think that's true.
Yeah.
And all of the news that has happened over the last few days or whatever, which those two stories do kind of contradict each other to some extent, as far as collectives are counted outside of the university, and then Trump's executive order that says third-party pay-to-play is not a thing. Like, I don't know that those have a direct correlation with what Cohen is predicting.
Okay.
They're close.
Yeah.
They're in the same topic.
Yeah.
But the specific rule, like, those things are different from one another.
To me, it seems to, and look, I'm not an attorney just because my last name is Law. I didn't go to law school.
Nice.
Not an attorney. Certainly don't pretend to understand every single thing. But I mean, you don't have to be an attorney either to read it and then try to apply some logic to what's happening in college athletics. Yeah, to me, the executive order seems to sort of go hand in hand with the House settlement. It seems to affirm the House settlement, which was not reversed, but that in-house collective line was tweaked by the ruling earlier this week. See, the ruling earlier this week immediately elicited the reaction, all right, it's time. Auburn's been ready to pivot, and now it's time to pivot. This executive order, again, if it's at all enforceable, And we'll talk a little more about what's kind of the guts of it here in a second. But if it's at all enforceable, would seem to go back and say, all right, well, no, the strategy that Auburn has been using, if enforced, is by the letter of the law the correct strategy.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe. Once again, like I don't think those dots are fully connected between the two things. They're close.
Uh-huh.
They're close. Do third-party deals count against the cap? Assuming they get cleared by NIL Go, do they count against the cap? And most schools are operating as if they don't.
Right.
And Auburn is, as we last spoke to Cohen publicly, their stance hasn't changed on that. That's different than pay to play.
Right.
Pay to play third party, like that was never a thing ever. Like I don't think this executive order really impacts that much. If you did a third party deal that involved pay to play, that was part of the rev share agreement. But when you talk about NIL deals, NIL is not pay to play. That is not a thing.
Yeah, I think it is in some people's mind, though, Zach. I think you're talking about three categories. You have rev share, one. You have in-house NIL, and then you have third-party NIL. It's the third-party NIL that's always been subject to that, $600 or more valuation, has to be a bona fide business, marketing type of arrangement.
Your third-party NIL. That all goes through the clearinghouse and all that. Yeah,
correct. That's what's subject to the clearinghouse. The in-house NIL, that's what Cohen said was a part of the cap, he said that was part of the cap. That's what we understood it to be. Third-party NIL, I've not seen anything that has said that applied to the cap.
Cohen said it. I mean, Cohen said it point blank when he spoke, at the ambush event at Lake Martin, and that's kind of what started all of this hoopla.
Right.
And everybody I've asked is like, yeah, I'm not sure that's right.
I have seen nothing that would say that third-party NIL counted toward the cap. The in-house NIL 100% would count against the cap.
Yeah, and then but then like is in-house NIL a thing based off of the ruling earlier this week? I mean, to my understanding, like you saw so many colleges, schools throughout the country disband their collectives,
right?
Because they were bringing everything in-house, and then rulings they were reported by all the big wigs a few days ago said that the collectives now can operate as any other third-party NIL company.
Yeah.
And so then people assume, well, that's pay to play. And like at its core, like you're probably right.
Yeah.
But as far as how it's worked and operated so far, if you can convince NIL Go that you're paying them fair market value for whatever services they're getting in return, like that's not pay to play by definition of this new era of college football. That's not what this is. The pay to play aspect of it is when you are giving money and you're not getting anything in return, which is the rev share part of this. The school is giving the money however they choose to allot it to their athletes and to their programs and all of that. That is the pay to play portion of this. The third party portion has always been NIL, has not been pay to play because of the NIL Go thing. So once again, you asked me my initial reaction to President Trump's executive order. I don't think it does anything.
Yeah. Some of the guts of this, Zach. So it's calling for the DOJ, the Department of Education, Department of Labor, to look at and propose rule changes. Okay. That can probably happen.
Sure.
I mean, like that, they'll get together, they'll put their heads together. They ain't going to do it tomorrow. These aren't going to be changes that are in place by August 1st.
No, the government's involved now. It's going to take a while.
Right. And also, let me kind of add here, just for the sake of this discussion, it's too bad that this is a partisan issue, because there are going to be people who love this executive order and think it's the greatest thing ever because they align everything with our current president. There are going to be some people on the opposite end who think it's the worst thing ever, regardless. Like they believe college sports should have guardrails. They believe in regulation, but they think it's the worst thing ever because our current president signed it as an executive order.
Sure. And I mean, and if it was a few years ago when Biden was on office and he did the same thing, it'd be the exact same thing. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Totally.
So
I
It
mean,
shouldn't be partisan, but it is.
yeah, and like I don't even know if I really want the president chiming in on this in general. Honestly, like I feel like you've got more important things going on than eligibility issues of college athletes. But
We've said
whatever.
forever that Congress shouldn't, like, why should Congress? Now, look, the NCAA, they've dropped the ball and kicked it down the road to this point.
I don't even know if that ball's there anymore.
Right. Yeah, that they kicked the
I think they just
snowball so
lost the
much.
ball, and
Yeah.
they're acting like it's still in their backpack.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. So one of the other things they're going to try to classify athletes as amateurs rather than employees. How do we feel about that? Don't we feel like the best thing is to classify these players as employees? That's the easiest path to structure in college athletics.
Yeah, not all schools could afford it though. I mean, that's
Right.
the issue.
Yeah.
That's one. I think there's a consensus agreement that if it wasn't financial, they would all be fine with that.
It is interesting. Part of the executive order is that if you're an athletic department who made over 150 or operated under or with a budget of $150 million plus,
Yeah,
that you are to allot the maximum number of scholarships in non-revenue sports. There's a 50 million to 150 tier, and then a 50 million or below tier to that as well. So there is an attempt to try and preserve.
Auburn's over that, I assume.
I would assume, yes. Yeah.
I would assume most SEC programs are over that.
I would too. The biggest issue that this executive order is going to run into, again, practically, not from a partisan perspective, but from a practical perspective, okay? What they're going to run into is it tries to make uniform NIL rules nationally. Problem is there have been 30 states that have set up their own NIL regulations. So how easy or difficult is it going to be to override 30 states?
Look, all the arguments against the House settlement still exist. This doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
So, I mean, still the first time a receiver at USC gets his deal approved and then a receiver at UCLA doesn't, like there's going to be threats of pending lawsuits on this. Like that's the next step.
Well,
in all of this.
That's what brought the change in the ruling earlier this week to go back to allowing collectives to sort of operate the way they had been for 4 years and they laid it out. I mean, they said as much. They said so. They said, well, because of all the oncoming litigation, we had to make this change. That's going to be, and then the other is, again, what we've said from the start, trying to enforce market value. See, what we've done is in the last 4 years, and we didn't do it in 4 years, over 4 years. We did it at once. We did it on midnight, July 1st, 2021. We went from giving college athletes zero leverage to giving college athletes all the leverage. All the leverage. And
yes.
And you know
so much happened at once, Brad.
Right. So you know
so much happened at once.
You know what's not going to happen without a knockdown, drag-out war? College athletes giving up any leverage. You will not convince college athletes to give up any leverage. And there will be attorneys who fight and scratch and claw to keep all of the leverage. So executive orders may be like you may agree with every single word that's in the executive order. How are you going to enforce it?
Which has been my question all along, right? It's like, oh, it doesn't go through NIL. Go, okay, whatever. You still get the money. You still play. Like, how do they track all of that? And then if they catch you, what's the punishment? Like, can you actually do anything?
Right.
So that's been the question I've been asking from the get-go. So.
And even if you have an enforcement arm, okay, old Jimmy Red Suit who owns a clothing store, if he wants to operate in the gray area, he's going to do that, like, because he always has. It's gonna. I mean, that sounds cynical and defeatist, but it's just not as easy.
No, and if they're getting, like, that used to be obvious, right? When players rolled up to practice with, brand new Escalades or,
Chargers,
Bugatti or whatever. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't, like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, if a guy's getting $100,000 a year from rev share, and he pulls up in a new truck, it's like, I could have gotten something on that. And like, he doesn't have any public third party NIL deals. Like, like that could be a thing.
Yeah.
Like people who make $100,000 buy trucks all the time, So I don't know. I don't really know how you handle that.
Right. Again, to put a bow on this, enforcement aside, enforcement's a separate discussion. I do think that with Tommy Tuberville as a senator, and with Bruce Pearl as active as he has been in the political scene, as many political contacts as he has, and being a current employee at Auburn University and a current employee of John Cohen, you're not going to convince me that there wasn't some knowledge maybe that this was coming and that Auburn was going to operate under the guidelines listed in this. From the letter of the law, I think, I'm not asking everybody else to believe it. I know we're going to have some BDS in the comments about this. I think this shows that Auburn is attempting to be in line with it by the letter of the law. Again, unless and until something concrete shows you that it's time to pivot, which I thought was 2 days ago, and now this. So,
yeah. North Carolina wants to join the SEC.
How about that?
That's next.
Okay.
Right here on Village Vice. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Roback. Roback.com is where you can get all of your new Roback swag. I've got one of their performance hoodies on. And even though it's so thin and comfortable, you've got a collared shirt on. Roback, we're sporting Roback today. You can be like us. If you want to be like us, promo code VICE20, get 20% off your order at Roback.com. The Tar Heels reportedly exploring the option to move into the SEC. Okay. That's cool.
Yep.
And like Sankey has made it clear, like he made it really clear last year in the SEC Media Days in Dallas, is like, we're not seeking people out, but we have schools coming to us. And there was a lot of assumption that was FSU and Clemson at the time. And I do think eventually that will happen. If I had to guess, when their contract with their conference ends and the buyout's not insane, I do think eventually they will go to another conference. Will it be the SEC? I don't know, but they hate the ACC.
Yeah, they do.
And so what's so interesting about this now, to me, isn't that a solid program would want to join the SEC. That's not what this says. Of course, solid programs are interested in the SEC. It's another athletic program, another brand in the ACC, the struggling ACC that publicly wants out. We know Clemson's not happy. We know Florida State's not happy. Okay, what's the next biggest brand? It's either Miami or North Carolina.
Yep.
And you've got North Carolina now publicly saying, we want out. Yeah. You talk about leverage going for the athlete and the whole grand scheme of, NIL and the portal and all that.
Yep.
I mean, you can now look at these three of the top 4 or 5 schools in the conference, the ACC. I mean, I'm curious to see what kind of leverage they have now, Brad.
It is the ACC is the next to go the way of the Pac-12. It's not a matter of if, but when at this point. And I think that I think that Auburn fans should want North Carolina in the SEC as quickly as humanly possible.
There's 4 no-brainers.
Yeah.
In the ACC that Auburn needs to bring on.
Okay.
It is North Carolina.
Yep.
It is Florida State.
Okay.
It is Clemson. And a lot of people go Miami for this 4th one. I'm not going to. I think it's Georgia Tech. I think it's those 4 schools. Scream SEC. Sankey has been very adamant about geographical relevance. It has to make sense in the SEC.
Yeah.
Even though we've got a few that I'm like Missouri's a long way away, but Missouri fits. I'm glad that they're in the conference.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I'm the SEC, those are the 4 that I'm eyeballing.
Yeah. If I'm Auburn, I think you're right. If I'm the SEC, if I'm Auburn, I want North Carolina. I want NC State. I do not want Florida State and Georgia Tech. And here's why. You're already recruiting against Florida in the state of Florida. You're already recruiting against Miami too, but if Florida State joins the SEC, Now it's another Sunshine State school you're battling to lure players into the SEC. Same for Georgia Tech. Of that 4 you mentioned, Georgia Tech would most benefit from joining the SEC. Right now, Georgia pummels them head-to-head, and not exclusively, but largely for that reason. North Carolina is a talent-rich state. North Carolina coming to the SEC. Auburn doesn't recruit North Carolina all that heavily. Let me tell you who does. Tennessee. Tennessee would lose a couple of players a year head-to-head to North Carolina. That weakens Tennessee. Georgia would lose a couple of players head-to-head to North Carolina every year. That weakens Georgia. Relatively. I'm not talking it cripples the program. Relatively. South Carolina loses a couple of players every year to North Carolina. And I think if you take a block away from those schools, you enable your own program to be strengthened.
Yeah. I mean, I also think just the historic stuff of, rec tech and all of that stuff, like that'd be fun from the Auburn point of view.
I agree with that.
And then just from basketball, I mean, obviously bringing those brands in, especially North Carolina, into basketball, both men and women.
Yeah.
And then you talk about baseball would be tremendous. You talk about softball. You talk about gymnastics. I mean, those 4 brands, I think, would be great. And I think also Georgia Tech would give you another Vandy, which I think this conference might need to some extent.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they're a better program than Vandy most years, but still, I think I don't know. I think that'd be awesome. I think that'd be awesome. Another school I want in the SEC desperately is Baylor. I think Baylor fits
culturally.
So
you're
much.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think they fit so much, but it doesn't make sense. But it'd be.
We've got 8 teams to go to get to our 24-team AFC NFC comparison, which is where we're going. That was the other argument for bringing on a North Carolina, is because what it does, it pulls the big block out of the bottom of the Jenga tower to eventually lead to the ACC's demise, which gets you one step closer to the SEC and Big Ten.
Well, you either need the ACC and the Big 12 to fall apart, or you need them to strengthen up, because you can't have 3. You either need 2 or 4. I think 4 makes sense, but the ACC's leadership has been atrocious throughout all of this.
Yeah, and I think it's much more likely to
the
have.
Big 12's actually been okay. They had Texas and Oklahoma ripped from them.
Yeah.
Which was an L.
Yeah.
But I think how they've responded has actually been fine.
TCU playing for a national title a couple of years ago helped that tremendously. Got pummeled, but they at least made it to the game. So, no, I'm with you. I just think it's much more likely that you have 2 than 4, because if North Carolina were to leave, then it's the floodgates. ACC would be gone, and then you would be down to 3, and that won't.
And you see some schools feeling it out. I mean, Memphis offering the Big 12 $200 million.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 said no.
Yeah, they spat on it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I think in a few years we're going to talk about that move.
Yeah. I agree. This is not slowing down. Now, I love that camp's coming next week, and I love that we have actual season stuff that we're going to be able to get into, but this cycle isn't really, it's not really going to stop. It's going to be pushed maybe to the background because we're going to have camp and the season to talk about, but these wheels are still going to be spinning behind the curtain.
All right, Brad, I think that does it for today's show. I was all over the place.
Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. A lot of words in that 24 minutes.
A lot of words.
But we appreciate you commenting. Subscribe if you haven't yet. You'll know every time we have a new Village Vice. Remember, until next time, everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.